Hi, everybody, and welcome to the DogCo Secrets podcast. My name is Michelle. I am your host. I'm also the founder of DogCo Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. And today is a really special episode because I get to have my friend, colleague, and now employee, I guess, Maris. We have many dynamic star relationships we get to explore today. This person on the screen that is joining me today, Maris Sonnabend. Hi, Maris. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I'd love to give people a 2-second little snippet of how you and I know each other. And then I'd love for you to introduce yourself and kind of talk about how, from your perspective, us being on this call came to be. So context for everyone, Maris was one of my first clients. She was in the second cohort that I launched with DogCo. In her words, I came out of nowhere. And one of my favorite qualities about Maris is that she can't withhold her curiosity. So she jumped into DogCo. And we've now been working together for almost 2.5 years, which is super, super fun. And she recently has actually taken a role on my team. So we have a lot of things to explore today. And we were like, we're figuring all this out. Why don't we do a podcast episode about it? So Maris, would you introduce yourself, your business, and how we got here?
Yeah. So again, my name is Maris, and I started my pet sitting business. I mean, it wasn't even a business. It was a side hustle. I had done it all through high school. The pandemic happened. I was a retail manager at Target. And again, retail, pandemic, it was not fun at all. And as things started to open up again, I was declining pet sitting jobs to go to work at a job that I hated. My husband, Tyler, and I closed on our house in April of 2021. And he said, well, let's just see if it works. And I said, yeah, we've got a mortgage now. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't work out, we lose the house, but it's fine. Needless to say, it has worked out very, very well. So I give him a lot of credit for having the trust and belief in me to make it happen. But gosh, those first 2 years, we were doing everything from poo pickups to boarding and daycare in our house. I brought on staff pretty quickly, but I started to realize that the boarding and daycare was helping us make payroll, not the cost of visits and things like that. So I very quickly realized that I could not do it alone. And we had this fast growth where we were getting lots of clients, and I was kind of hiring, definitely not in a way that I should have been. And so again, whenever you showed up out of nowhere, my nosiness got the better of me. And I was like, well, let's see if she knows what she's talking about. And 2.5 years later, you have helped me eliminate those services that don't serve me. So we don't do boarding and daycare anymore. I actually went on maternity leave from Thanksgiving of 2024 to about February of this year, thanks to DogCo and all the processes it helped me set up. So the business has gone from me doing absolutely everything to having 2 full-time managers, 3 team leads, a full staff of, I think, 27 employees now. And I work on my business, not even in my business, about 30 hours a week. I get to focus on the things that I love. So like the marketing, the networking, things like that. So it's really become a business that I actually enjoy now. And it's really cool, like going to conferences and meeting people, and they see my brand and they know my brand and not me. Like I am no longer the brand, which is awesome, but the brand is me, if that makes sense. So anyway, that's a little bit about me and my business.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I've loved watching all of the freedom that you've been able to create for yourself in the last 2.5 years. So much growth. So much for us to get into. I wanted to acknowledge to the audience and to you, there's this funny dynamic of DogCo has been a big part of your growth, which has kind of culminated in you coming onto the team to support this process. So clearly you do believe in it. And also, there have been so many things that are part of that. So I just wanted to put a disclaimer out to the audience, probably because I'm insecure. Anything Maris says she was not asked to say. We did not talk about this ahead of time. And also, Maris, I know you know this, but for the sake of hearing it through the lens of the audience as well, I'd love your honest thoughts. I'd love your, anything we talk about. I just want people to know this is not me asking Maris to plug DogCo.
No. And honestly, anyone that has ever talked to me will know that it's hard for me to not talk about my business and DogCo at the same time because it has done so much for me and just you in general, Michelle. Like you and I have really meshed as people. And I'll tell anyone, like, listen, I love DogCo, but like I love Michelle as a person too. Like, I mean, the woman came out to my baby shower. Like,
I am the actual godmother to your baby.
yes, that is very true. So I mean, again, I didn't mean for that to feel like a plug, but I mean, truly, like there has been so much growth in my business because of it. So it's hard for me to talk about one without the other. Because
Yeah.
both have been such a big part of my life in the last, what you said, 2.5 years, which is so crazy.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit. Now that I got the disclaimer out of the way, and for anybody listening who doesn't know me, please know that's very genuine. Maris, you know this. If anybody's worked with me, knows this. Different programs make sense in different seasons, and DogCo reflects that as far as like what it's set up and how we're set up to get people in. I'd love to start with, you mentioned your business was doing all things. What were like key moments in your business where you felt like the business was stuck, and how did you move that forward?
I think it's very tempting for people when they first start out to offer all the services to get as
Mm-hmm.
many people in there as you possibly can. And so again, that was something as small as like the weekly poo pickups, which I thought, oh, this would be a great add-on and things like that, to the daycare and boarding, which again was a good moneymaker for us. But I mean, you were truly never off of work. I mean, you get home from
Yeah.
15 hours of visits and then you have dogs in your house you have to take care of. And don't get me wrong, my husband was home, so it was me that was doing the visit. Someone was always home with them. But like the poo pickups, I started to realize, okay, the people that are hiring us for poo pickups are not using us for our core services like dog walks and pet sitting. And no one's ever added it as an add-on to those services. So, and when I talked to my other staff that were doing those visits, I would ask them like, hey, what services do you love? What do you not like? And poo pickups were always that we do not like poo pickup. So for me, it just made sense. Okay, it's not a huge moneymaker. Our times are getting so full with our current staff. I don't want to fill it with things that are not serving my team and me. And then boarding and daycare, of course, it's just, it does take over your house very, very quickly. And my own personal dogs were getting older and they were slowing down. And again, the burnout of just always being on, or that one dog that comes over that you're just not looking forward to them coming over for whatever reason. Just starting to realize I don't have to serve everyone for everything. That was probably one of
Yeah.
the biggest things I've learned over the last few years, is that the business is here to serve me and the people that I want to serve, not the other way around.
If you feel stuck in your pet care business, this one is for you. I've worked with over 200 companies in the pet care industry, and this is what I can tell you. If you feel stuck in your business, if you are struggling with burnout, if your net profit is too low, if you're not growing your top line revenue, those changes will not happen by accident. My name is Michelle Kline. I am a coach consultant in the pet care space, and I help team-based companies grow and scale. We have just opened up our doors for enrollment, and we are only taking companies once a year. So if you want to work with DogCo, if you have that on your radar, January 2026 is your chance, and you need to schedule a consultation now. Go to dogcolaunch.com/mastermind to learn more.
It's led to a few fired clients, but the sanity of my team and again, dropping services that don't work for us anymore. But it's just made our culture stronger, our business stronger, to not be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Just a good chunk of things to people that we care about.
It's so funny. I always forget that you offered boarding and daycare, but that was a huge piece of our work together the first year, was growing other service lines so that you could remove that without taking like a massive revenue hit. Because it was I want to say it was 30% of your
Yes.
revenue when we started working together.
Yes. And like I said, it was actually covering payroll for some of my staff because my services were just not like pricing was not lined up with what I could afford to pay people. And when that started to come to like, I was like, oh God, if we don't have any boarding and daycare, we can't make payroll and let alone pay ourselves. Like, so there was a lot of pricing adjustments that first year as well.
Well, and it's so fun. You're really taking me back because we tackled it in exactly the order you're talking about. Like, we got more clear on your data. We got more clear on like what actually was happening inside of your business, which really is the first month of the mastermind. Like, let's define the reality here. And then you came in, surveyed your team to get some of that perspective as well, so that you could like include them in the process of how you grow, and then came in and adjusted the pricing, and then had the courage to follow through with hard decisions. I think you just outlined months 1 through 5 of the mastermind.
It's crazy how things come together. And it's really interesting too to think like all these services that were core services for our business just don't even exist anymore. And it was scary to get rid of them, but the fact that we worked on them when we did and I joined DogCo when I did helped me whenever I found out I was pregnant and you were the second person that I called. I called my husband and I called Michelle. I was like, "What about the business? There's a baby coming." And but if I hadn't done the work before, it would have been a lot harder to make those adjustments when needed.
So that really leads us into the second year of work that we did together. So Maris just kind of gave the context to this story, but when Maris and I first worked together, we did all this operational work the first year. And I remember we had this moment where we were like, next year we scale. It's on. Like nothing could hold us back. And I get a text from Maris that it was a Friday afternoon. I was in the line for the pharmacy and I got a text and she said, "You have about 5 seconds before I call you and I need you to pick up." And I was like, okay, either someone is very hurt or we are about to readjust a lot of things for next year. It was the second one. And so our second year of work very quickly shifted. Well, and what's amazing is you still scaled really quickly that year, proving it can be done while still focusing on operations. But our focus really had to shift into preparing you for maternity.
Well, and it's so funny that you like knew exactly where you were in that moment because I know that I was parked outside of my office, getting ready to go in and just sitting in my car. I mean, it was truly, I don't want to call it a life defining moment, but it was a big
It
pivot
was.
moment where like I know
Yeah.
exactly where I was at that time and what was going through my head. And gosh, it was over a year now. Violet will be a year next month, which is mind boggling. But yeah, I mean, it changed the trajectory of the entire business, but also didn't slow us down. It just kind of shifted priorities in that moment. And gosh, I mean, this last year too, just figuring out how to run the business again now as a mom has been a whole other thing I was not expecting. So
One thing that I've always really admired about you, Maris, is you do such a good job of allocating revenue into your own skill set and not just DogCo. Like you've done a lot of different coaching programs. You're always investing in yourself. And I'd love for you to share with people a little bit more about that mindset, how it's served you, any lessons you've learned from like allocating your business revenue strategically into that kind of return.
yeah, definitely. So I have tried to go to college 3 times. And I think this is probably a big reason why I became a business owner, but I learned very quickly that I just don't do well with authority is maybe the best way of putting that. Like I have always kind of been my own person. And for me, I knew that I couldn't do this on my own. And I've tried a lot of different systems, coaches, things like that. And everyone has their strengths. But the one thing that stood out for me with DogCo is that it gave you a plan and a way to actually execute it. It didn't just kind of like talk the talk, it walked the walk too. Like it's like, here's what you should do. And now here's how you implement it also. So it wasn't just like this is how it should be. It was also again the
Mm,
steps to do so. And especially that first year of DogCo, I made sure I think I might have missed one call that first year. And I
mm,
really made sure I always had the time to one, be there for the call and two, actually implement. And maybe I wasn't working on the exact thing we were discussing that month, but I was working on something from the month prior because not all these changes happen within that week that you're discussing it. You have to pick what your priorities are beginning of the year and work from there. Again, our first year was just kind of streamlining and figuring out where we were financially and what my team preferred and what worked best for us, getting all that straightened out. That way the next year we could grow based on what our strengths were, which were again the dog walking, pet sitting, and dog walking has become a huge core of our business. We don't have any plans to get rid of pet sitting yet because my team loves the almost overnights, but it was just really kind of figuring out what did work best for me. And again, I am a very quick pivoter, I think is another thing too, is I'm very quick to make big decisions. And if they don't work, okay, well, let's try something different. So some would call that impulsive. And it's not always my best trait, but I'm always willing to try something out. And if it doesn't work, then I'm better for it in the end. I learned something. I always take something away from everything I try, whether it's a good or a bad thing, and just build on it the next time.
that's a mindset that I really appreciate is like there's a lesson in everything. And sometimes the lesson is like, I know now not what or what not to do next time. But I know you and I both follow the Hermosies, and that's one thing I really appreciate about them is that mindset of just we're always taking a lesson and it's just about continuing and pivoting and keeping going because it's never going to be perfect. I also really like the comment that you made about making sure you had time set aside to honor those investments. I know sometimes it can feel like we're doing something when we spend money on something that's like supposed to help us get further, but it really is that implementation.
Well, it's like, I mean, I'm sure everyone could resonate with buying a membership at the gym and then never using it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same type
Yeah.
of principle. And I do have courses that I've purchased and have never touched. That's not to say that those courses don't work. I just didn't put the time in to use them. The money is spent. They have my money. They don't care if I use it or not. But if I actually implement the things, then yeah, you'll get something out of it. Even if it's just a little bit like a nugget of information that you can take. And I've really invested my time. And this year it's been a lot of like just reading and getting off of the screen has been really good for me because I feel like I've just kind of been on a
Mm,
grind the last 3 years. But
mm.
it's still learning. It's just in a different format. And I've really enjoyed that this year. And also reading for fun again. So that's been another important thing for me.
I'd love to follow the thread of this question of when you feel stuck in your business, how do you get unstuck? Like, what do you do? What's your go-to move?
So I think a lot of people would struggle with this, but I have become a time blocker. And I used to really fight the time blocking just because I'm like, well, my day it could always just change. And like, yeah, theoretically, your day could always change. But every Sunday, I sit down and I plan out my schedule for the entire week. And that schedule also includes a list of things I need to do. And I will literally schedule specific times to work on each item that is on my to-do
Mm,
list. And if it's a more complex situation, or things that take multiple steps, then okay, then we're going to schedule the times of what I'm going to be working on each small step to build up to that one big thing.
mm,
Like maybe it's on Monday, we'll plan the social media. On Tuesday, we're setting aside time to shoot content for House of Paws, and then scheduling it actually on Wednesday. Things like that. I've gotten better about doing like scheduling things in general, like scheduling blogs and things like that, because I know it needs to get done every week. My challenge to myself this year was posting at least one blog a week. So if I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to it on Monday, then I would schedule it on Friday to go out on Monday. So
mm.
just really planning ahead, and that has really changed my life. Again, my calendar, if some people looked at it, it would scare the crap out of them. I schedule my showers. I give myself
Same.
some buffer. Yes. I mean, and I used to think you were crazy for it, but gosh, it works. And we were texting last night. I was even like type A problems. I need to make sure I can go to the gym before this call.
Heard.
But that's how I make sure I get everything done. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I have lost 40 pounds this year because I've been able to better schedule. Like, I'm going to the gym. That's a non negotiable meeting for me. But I
Mm,
also know I am a morning workout person. So I schedule my workout in the morning before anything else so that nothing else can interrupt that time. And same things with just knocking things off my schedule. I don't want to work 50-hour, 60-hour, 80-hour weeks anymore. So I need to be
yeah.
strategic with the time that I do have care for Violet. That way, whenever I am with her, I'm not sitting there checking my phone or anything else. Again, being strategic with my time for work, but also my time for freedom has been a huge, huge move just to make sure that I do have that freedom because that time will get filled very quickly if you allow it to.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like, we have to be so directive with our time for it to work for us. And it's such a limited resource. I spent so much of my time as a young business owner focusing on like financial management. And now, this kind of second arc of growth for me, I think has been mostly focusing on time management, and like, how do we make sure our time really works for us?
My husband is very numbers oriented. He is just like my human calculator. And I think the biggest lesson I have taught him in life is that we can always make more money. We cannot make time back. And I think, especially now in this first year of having Violet, she has grown from a little potato, like doesn't even move, to she's chasing the cats down the hallway and all these other things. And that really puts it into perspective that time is fleeting and we don't have forever. And again, he could be a penny pincher, but I think now he's starting to realize he'd rather spend that money and that time on experiences with her and like taking her to go do all these things. Like, sure, she's not even a year old, but she's been to all these places and she won't
Yeah.
remember it, but we will, and we won't get that back. And especially because we're one and done. I'm putting that on the podcast. One kid and done.
It is now canon. Kind of following this thread of getting time back, investing. And I am leading us to talk a little bit more intentionally about DogCo because that really is the heart behind it is saving companies time, money, pain in the long run. Like, yes, it's a upfront investment, but for a return. So I'd love to give people a little bit of context to how you joining the team came together. So obviously, everyone can tell Maris and I know each other quite well. And she has always been such an advocate for DogCo. And when I had the summit about 6 weeks before the DogCo summit, which we had our first one in September, I had this moment where I was like, I think bringing DogCo into 2026 off of everything I've announced, I don't think I can do this part of the business alone anymore. It just from a pure, like, time perspective, but also from, like, a DogCo's just grown. It's become incredibly communal. It is more than just me, and it's a big emphasis going into next year. We've lined up DogCo partners and other coaches. We've lined up community managers, which we're gonna talk about a little bit. And so, when I started thinking about what it's gonna look like through the end of this year to bring people well into DogCo next year, you were a very easy ask on my end to ask if this would work for you. But I'd love to talk about how that was kind of from your perspective and what made coming into DogCo now make sense for you.
Yeah, so I never considered myself a good salesperson, but I am a good speaker, and that when it comes to something I'm passionate about, I could just talk about it for forever. And whether that's my horses, my dogs, my kid, I'm one of those people now. It just seemed like a good fit for what I can do, and if you would have asked me last year, I would have said, "I just don't have the time." Like, there's just no there is just no way.
Yeah.
I have too much going on. There's just a lot happening, and I found myself this year that sometimes I am just kinda sitting here like, "Okay, what do I do what do I do next?" And and it's a good place to be, but I am a busybody. Like, again, for me to have my schedule full, that's a satisfying day for me, to have it
Mm,
all planned out. And so for me, again, to talk to other business owners, I mean, I've said this to a lot of people, like a lot of people come to DogCo for the content, but they stay for the community. And just being able to talk to other people that get it is huge, and it's so much fun. And especially like being at conferences and summits and things like that, and being face to face with people that you've talked to
mm,
every single day, every week. I talk to some people online more than like I've seen my mom, and she lives 15 minutes down the road. So for me, I've seen what DogCo has done for myself, and I see a lot of people in this industry really struggling with this side of, do I just keep pushing through the hard and hope it gets
mm.
better? I never get to see my family anymore. The holidays, I'm working 15-hour days, and I don't want that for our industry. And you actually talked about on a recent podcast that other parts of the pet care industry don't see pet sitters and dog walkers on that same wavelength or on that same level, because they just aren't aware that there are $1 million businesses in our industry, and there
Mhm,
are all these softwares and things that can help us. So whatever one of us is better, all of us could be better. And I really think
mm.
that's why I wanted to be a part of something bigger. And that's what I think DogCo is doing for our industry.
That's the hope. That's what I hope it does. Because I'm really bought in on that too, that, like, if we elevate all of this together, the trickle down effect is that everybody benefits. Like, as our industry continues to elevate. And I can tell you, like, one of the reasons I did want you in this role, to describe what Mira says specifically, she does consultations with companies if they're considering the mastermind. So there's a good chance if you schedule a consultation off the website, you'll be speaking with Miris. And a big reason I did want you in that role, Miris, is because I trust you're not trying to sell people. You're trying to help them. And if DogCo's the right fit for them, that's amazing. And I know you'll be very honest that you think that. And I also know you'll be very honest if you don't. And there have been companies already that you've made a very honest recommendation. I don't think this is right for you this year. And I commend that because it's true. It's not the right fit for everybody at all points in time in your business.
Definitely. And there's truly never been a better time for our industry to be in our industry with all the resources
Mm-hmm.
that we have. Like Doug's hiring course, that first hire
Mm-hmm.
is the hardest one you will make. And some of us stumble upon that person. And some of us have to really search for that person that we can really trust with our baby. That is
Yeah.
our business. And again, there's so many resources now. Like I know Janie has a course on converting your ICs to employees, things like that. I mean, like these are huge problems that our industry has had. And now you can pay for a course and hopefully use it to better your business instead of just trying to like wing it and figure it out. Because I know I've talked to some labor lawyers and things like that, that I had to kind of explain what our industry is and how it is different than any other industry. And so to be able to have other leaders available and to have access to this information for people that
Mm.
get what we do is huge. So that's really important.
What would you say to a company that's looking at next year and maybe they're feeling stuck right now? They're trying to figure out their next move. And, not even necessarily Dogco, but like, what would you advise them as they're looking to 2026 and they're looking at like, I want next year to be different? You said something a couple minutes ago that my brain immediately latched onto. You made the statement, people struggling with this, do I just push through and stay in the hard, or do I do something different? So, yeah, what are your thoughts? Like, what would you share with companies?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact saying that I've heard, but it was like something about doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is like the definition of insanity or something like that. And I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
better wording for it, but I mean that's truly what it is. I mean, if you keep accepting those last minute bookings from clients and not charging last minute fees for them, if you keep canceling out the time that you set aside for yourself to take that request because you just feel bad declining people, I guess the biggest thing is figuring out what is important to you. Is that having weekends off? Is that having evenings off? Is that having time to walk your own dog? What are your priorities? And figuring out what needs to change in your business in order for those priorities to become reality. Like for me personally, like I have horses, and my biggest fear was that okay, this year I'm going to have my daughter, the business is going to be running, and I'm going to be spending all this money to maintain them and not be able to see them. So I require myself to go out there at least 3 times a week. And
Hmm.
Tuesday mornings are one of my set times. I drop Violet off at daycare and I go to the barn, and my phone is off, notifications are off, and that's what I'm doing. And that is a set boundary for myself. And my management team knows if you reach out to me at that time, you're probably not going to get a hold of me. Figure it out. But that was a priority for myself this year is that, again, I had time for myself to not be a business owner, to not be a mom for a little bit,
Hmm.
just to be who I was before I was any of those things. And
Yeah.
that was it. That was my boundary for this year. That was my goal for this year is to have a little piece of me still through everything. I got to make sure everyone else is good first, but I still get that. And so
Yeah.
I guess that would be my advice would be to find out what your priorities are and break it down into what needs to happen in your business and life in order for those priorities to become reality.
Well, and I'll tag team on that. I would encourage companies to start there and then to really work on the mindset of believing it's within your control. Because I work with so many business owners that I think feel so out of control with their business. And there are seasons where it's like, yes, we may not be able to restore 100% of control to you right away. And yes, of course, there will always be things outside of your control, the economy, the like broader economy, for example. Yes, that is outside of your control, but there is so much more within your control than we feel or act like on a daily basis. You can prioritize your life. You can prioritize how you want to relate to your business and build it to serve that lifestyle. And I really want companies to go into 2026 believing that. And then if you're stuck on the how, that's where, DogCo or another program may make sense for you. DogCo can't define the priorities of what your life should look like, but it can, if it's in alignment with those priorities, help be the pathway to get there. And that's what any program, in my opinion, should be, is the facilitation of where you want to go.
Well, and I think one of the coolest parts about DogCo too, and this is what I've told a lot of people, is that it saves you from having to reinvent the wheel. You
Hmm.
have access to these processes that have been used in businesses as small as $100,000 all the way up to $1 million plus. And no one has just copied and pasted that same SOP to their business. They've had to tweak it a little bit to make it work for what works for them and their structure.
Yeah.
So, but again, it saves you from sitting there staring at a screen thinking, okay, what do I do next? And how do I write out something as simple as how to do a cat sitting visit, something like that. That seems so simple and easy to us, but as we all know with training employees and staff and that it's not always common sense on how to scoop a litter box and all of that good
Yeah.
stuff. I remember I wrote you a love letter last year whenever I was training up my admin, and you had the admin training handbook or something along those lines. And it's like a 60-page document. It's huge. And it took me 3, 4 hours to go through everything and tweak a few things. Cause obviously, again, it wasn't all applicable to my business. And there was things that we did differently and our cancellation policies are different, things like that. But gosh, 3 to 4 hours to edit and tweak a 60-page document is nothing. And even in the age of ChatGPT, sure, you have that as a resource, but it doesn't know the ins and outs of your business, even if you air quote train it to do so. That still needs a human touch. Everything needs a human touch. And it also doesn't know if those SOPs work. So
Yeah. Yep.
so to especially like, and again, what we do, people truly don't know what our industry does. It's still a very new part of the pet industry in general. So to have those proven documents and systems in place that you can just have access to and tweak and again see if it works. If it doesn't for you, then pivot to something else. There's 100 other businesses you can talk to in DogCo to see how they change that same SOP to work for them. So it's pretty cool. I'm biased, but it's pretty cool.
This will be announced by the time this episode comes out, but that's one reason I'm so excited about this new tool that, we're rolling out with DogCo, the Process Builder, because it is contextualized SOPs. So we've built AI tool that is trained on all of the DogCo SOPs, the systems and the processes that we recommend, so that it can write these contextualized systems for you. They're rooted in a real pet care business. They're not just kind of like the internet's best guess at what it's like to run a pet care business. They're actually grounded in something that was tried and true, because that document you just talked about, I love that it only took you 3 to 4 hours, because that took my business 9 months to put together. That was
Believe
a
it.
Yeah, that was a hefty document. I think it's the most thorough document that I have in DogCo.
And it took
So I
me
love
that long
that.
to look at. It took me almost, I guess, a little bit over 2 years to even be ready to look at that SOP because I didn't have team leads or anything like that until probably like a month and a half before my maternity leave. And I was like, oh God, I have to really break it down for them because I'm not going to be there to help them if they have questions throughout the way. So that is a core document. And I'm actually training up a new team lead tomorrow. So I need to go back through it again and see if anything has changed. Because again, no SOP is ever
No,
stagnant. Like you write it and it's
no.
done. It's always
Yeah.
changing. The technology that we use is changing. The systems are always being updated, tweaked, things like that. So don't think that once you have it done, it's done forever.
No, it's a living
There's,
document. Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Maybe let's end on this note. And this will be my only kind of direct plug ask. So just to qualify the hat I'm putting on. Well, actually, you know what? Before I do that, I do want to let everybody know that Maris is not only doing sales consultations. She also is coming in as a community manager next year, a success leader for DogCo. And she will be working with about 25 companies directly to help them succeed through the program. So I know you've already, well, pretty much filled your group, but, kind of going back to my direct ask, with the insight that you have, if a company is considering scheduling a consultation or something has piqued their ear about the DogCo Mastermind, what would you say to them?
I would say the least you could do is schedule a call. And we
Mm,
talked about it before is that we are not taking everyone that schedules a call
mm-hmm.
with us because I have talked to a few people where they might have a team, but there's just a few things that they need to tweak in order to truly be ready for it because maybe they are in the field for 18 hours a day because they're doing overnights and all these other things. And they truly don't have time to
Mm,
invest, whether that's financially, time wise. I mean, I think the time is probably the biggest part because, like you said, you can purchase a program, but if you don't have the time to dedicate to it, then no, it's not going to work for you. So maybe they need to hire a few more staff members to be ready for it. But just if you schedule the call, we can just talk about it. It's never an obligation. And I just
yeah.
enjoy talking to people about it. I mean, I think anyone in the industry that I've talked to before would tell you that I'm a very open book. Like, I don't really hide my numbers if you ask me about them. Like, I just, like, maybe I should be a little bit more protective over them, but I'm proud
Eh,
of what I've created in a very short amount of time. I mean, I went full time in April of 2021, and now it's what, November of 2025. Make more than I ever have before. And I also work less than I ever have before. And we travel a lot, and I have a family, and all these things that I would have never thought would have been possible when I first started because I was so in the thick of the chaotic and everything else going on that I just didn't ever
mm,
imagine that this side of it would be possible. And like I'm literally sitting in my business's office right now that has a storefront that advertises us and our brand is a living, breathing thing. And I just love to see that for other people too. I would love to see more people be brought into that because it is a truly, there's no other place like it in our industry. So I get excited talking about it. So I'm just fun to talk to. That's what you should do. Just schedule a call because I'm fun to talk to.
That's the pitch. That's the angle. I love it. Well, thank you, Maris, and not just for coming on the podcast, but for being you, for trusting DogCo so many years ago, even though I was a random stranger on the internet, for bringing me into your business. It's truly been an honor, for talking Tyler into DogCo as well, because we all know he was hesitant,
He
rightfully
was.
so.
He's like, "Who is this lady?" I'm like, "I don't know, but we're gonna find out."
It worked out. Thank you, Tyler. And yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the team and good things ahead. So if
Yes.
anybody is interested in scheduling a call, honestly, most likely with Maris is where that call will go. Go to dogcolaunch.com/mastermind and you can book it right off that page. So thank you so much, Maris. All right,
Thanks for
everybody, have a
having
good
me.
one.